So welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight, and today Aurora is back, and I'm pretty sure we are going to have another wonderful and interesting discussion. So, Aurora, last time I wanted to ask you something, but I forgot. And so maybe we can start there. I heard you say in one of your videos that there are very rarely people without a soul, what other people call NPC. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes, I can actually. Based on personal experience,
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed that when there is a growth spurt in, let's say, in yourself, normally it highlights the level in which a particular being or person or individual would, um, let's say, not reach that level. It kind of, to give you an example, the stronger you become within yourself in terms of self-love and growth and your connection with your spirit and so on, the more aligned you become, the more you are able to see when you are in the presence of people that do not have that growth spurt in them. You can see that by just their presence. There are also people that are essentially, I love this cat, I love it. um, the situation with regards to noticing people like that, for example, are very much where you sense them as not being present. They are not present in the environment. Now, I've also seen out of experience where, let's say, you go into a public place or a shopping mall or anything or something like that, something mundane where there's a lot of people there. They normally stare at you, like without being aware that they stare at you. And if you do anything that's a little bit weird or a little bit a little bit different like that, they don't see it. They don't respond to it at all. There's no connection going on there. There's just absolutely blink on, blink off. Their auric field to me is normally not very clear. It's very gray. So that's how I see them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, you're frozen.
Up to where?
So, yeah, you were frozen again. This is a little bit of a hurdle.
It is.
Yeah, when we started, you were frozen twice, yeah?
Okay.
Before we
And
started
there's no
recording.
there's no dip in my signal here at all. I checked, I ran a test just
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, it
Um,
doesn't show anything that is yeah, okay.
okay.
We will see how far we come, and if not, we can finish it another day.
Absolutely, it's fine with me. It's fine
Yeah.
with me.
So the way first of all, thank you for explaining that. Um, and the way I look at them, what we call NPCs,
Mm,
my perception is, what we experienced the last 3 to 4 years, um, and the very terrible disease that was going on. So, and then of course there came the wonderful jumbo juice that everybody had to get. And oh, you're frozen again.
okay.
So we are back. So how much did you hear what I just said?
Nothing. I just last time I heard was nothing.
Oh, okay, good. So, with everything that we have experienced the last couple of years and terrible disease And yeah, and then the Jamba Juice came along, and that was the solution. Everybody go, hurry, get the Jamba
Yeah,
Juice.
yeah.
And then you had these stations where people lined up to get the Jamba Juice.
Mm,
And you know, an NPC, I probably, you know, that is probably a person, even if right on spot, two people in front of him are
mm,
dropping dead right
yeah,
away. Yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah.
NPC would probably tell himself, yeah, with me it will be different. That has nothing to do with what just happened, you know.
You,
So
you actually think that they would have that foresight, though, right?
yeah. So
Yeah,
meaning that there is a type of obedience that is self-destructive. To that,
yeah,
it goes to that point, and that to me suggests that there is something defunct, you know,
yes.
within the person. If you know, I'm not so yeah, how shall I say this? Um, I will not say it has to do with not having a soul or something, but something is wrong with those people.
Well, there is something to do with the basic soul existence as a basic personality in the existence of that being, of that person, or whatever you want to call it. Everything that is alive has a subset basic soul um, operating system, is what I would say.
Mm.
Um, if they are in that situation, which we've now seen with our own eyes in many cases, um, as you say, the self-destruct thing that could very well be related to a basic sort of existence of that soul for a demonstrative purpose, because this reality or this realm is basically built on the operating model of visual imagery. So everything is there for a visual stimulus, whether it's good or bad.
Mm.
So yeah, definitely. The self-destruct button would then be very much be there to create some sort of chaos, or if you don't do this, then if you don't drink the juice, then this and this will happen to you. But then you take the juice and, oh my goodness, that was such a brave soul, or
Mm.
whatever. And maybe
Mm.
it won't happen to me, type of thing. Like I said, in my later material, the more you observe this on an objective level, the more you see that it really is based on a type of thought field experiment, which is what I've been calling it, where these things are placed on a platform for you to observe, to see, and then to decide whether you're going to fall into the consensus of agreeing to take the juice, or whether you should decide to investigate it, or whatever the case may be. But it's normally, if you don't want your child to burn their hands on the hot plate, that parent is going to try and explain whatever way is possible what will happen if you do burn your finger on the plate. This is what your finger will look like, type of thing. So it really is in the eye of the beholder at all stages and times. Is what I've noticed.
Mm.
To add to what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing that has been yeah not puzzled me, but I really can't find a definite answer to that. For quite a while, I thought about, whenever it comes to human beings and transportation, what we see throughout history is some type, a horse, and
Mm,
then maybe a wagon behind it, or whatever it might be. Yeah, and that this goes on for thousands and thousands of years. And yes, there is a case to be made. There is that there is a lost civilization that we hardly know anything about. And I could imagine that they had technology, but to what extent we probably do not know. So, but from what we can see, that is so-called accepted history, yeah, always horse and then something, yeah, to sit in, or you sit right away on the horse. And then, boom, out of the blue, you know, we are sitting in automobiles, we are sitting in aeroplanes, we are sitting in submarines. People start throwing rockets at each other and, you know, chemical warfare and what have you. What happened there?
Well, what I know for sure is it appears to look like there's a jump, but that's the appearance. Because most of the information that has been developed at times, why do you think they would do these experiments in secret facilities, for example, is to actually perpetuate whatever experiment they're doing to create the next Ferrari or the next Chevrolet or whatever straight after, you know, the Ford Mobile, is purposefully shrouded from everyone. And I mean, if you look at the timelines in terms of civilizations, from what I was able to establish in my research, is that nothing really is destroyed and nothing really new is put in its place. It's all interwoven with one another in certain ways. They snuck in the story about artificial intelligence when they made the oldest first, let me try to think, black and white movies about the automaton. And everyone was like, and this was in the 1800s, and it was working with steam at the time. And then it was quiet and down again. Then the Industrial Revolution happened, and then there was nothing of that for at least whatever time period. But that doesn't mean that they were still busy with it or inventing it in the background, which what I'm trying to say is things are presented in a way that would make you look for it or not, whether you are perceiving it or not. I don't believe that civilizations of let's say the Mayans, for example, or whatever, that they stopped functioning, boom, gone. And the only reason it's made to appear that way is because of the material that's written about them. They are the ones that are there at the dig, at the archaeological dig first, so they can write in whatever way they want to write for the person to experience whatever they wish to share. So what I'm trying to say is there's a manipulation of information. That's basically what it's about. It really borders down onto that. Steam trains, and then suddenly the bullet train, that's because it was kept quiet. That's the only way. That's how they manipulate through perception what they wish for people to know or not. They still do.
Okay.
I mean, so, yeah.
I'm just realizing since the last time you came back in, it seems to be calmer now when we address the AI.
Yes, indeed, indeed. We also put an energy field around us to protect, yes, strengthened it a bit as well.
So in other words, do you think all these inventions have been already there and they were just introduced at that particular time?
Absolutely, yes. Tesla made all his inventions, they squashed it, and then they presented it with Elon Musk. It's the same stuff, or whoever else is doing whatever they are with the technology. It's purposefully presented and not presented. And that is the manipulation of the perception. It's always smoke and mirrors with whomever is doing it.
Do you think that has also to do with the world wars, that they presented it at that particular time?
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Do you think it has to do with the two world wars, that they presented it at that particular time?
I do believe that, yes, because it was presented in such a way at the peak of certain.
Oh no, not again. So I have to say, in terms of technological problems, this is definitely one of the weirdest.
Yeah, and yet I'm familiar with it. It's always been like that, but never this bad. So obviously
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, something is up. Okay, maybe we have better luck with this new link. Aurora, do you recall what we were just talking about? I guess I asked you if you think that the technology was already there and then they introduced it.
Yes, yes, I do. Yes, I agree. Definitely. So, because of the rapid need and the necessity to always conceal information.
Yeah,
Because
and because of the
yeah,
war.
that's it. Yes, and the wars. That's right. If I remember correctly, historically they were the countries at that time were on an escalation. They were going towards a higher sort of peak. I remember also distinctly that they were investigating in bringing in new types of technology, such as from the Golden Age period, which is what they called in the night. Well, I said I called it 1900s when it started, because most of the material that you would find um, then were now being explored and investigated. I would say people had been experiencing a sort of a calmer state of existence, perhaps, and that was just a problem because everyone had their own financial currency. They were very strong in that as well, and I suppose those who needed to have from it or of it or whatever had to get involved to basically stop that. And that's been going on. That's the same patterned behavior. So yeah, I definitely, whenever it's going really well or too well, I mean, it happened in the Renaissance as well, when the Black Plague was introduced as well. There was a golden age, and a Black Plague came straight after. It started with the fall of Pompeii, a volcano. So we're looking at certain elements that are involved in implementing to bring down certain periods of growth, whether they are man-made in terms of information for us to think that it was, or whether it was an actual natural act of nature that happened. Either way, there's always something. There's an exploitation of information in terms of reducing what people should know of that time or not. They write at least 100 years ahead of time how they should how things should be through white papers. Winston Churchill brought in the invention of white papers, which is where you write a certain idea or an ideology in the form of a story, and you then present it to the government to keep in an archive. Every country in the world has got a white paper system. So it's yeah, they wrote about the 2019 situation at least 20, 30 years ago, prior to it, in white papers. So that's just what I've discovered when I was doing my research and noticing that actually, you guys have been doing this for quite a long time, and you keep using the same patterns, the same process, the same principles, because people fall for it. People fall for it every time. They keep buying into it. sadly.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what the motivation might be to, hold back certain technologies? And who in the world makes that decision?
Well, it kind of borders down on I think most people think that it was the committee of 300 back in the day, but I actually propose a much more ominous, sort of more present in the background, let's say, name for it as called an agency that is basically doing that. And the reason for slowing down the process is because of the strength of the belief that they have over control.
No, no, not again. Psychic stalking.
I just called it that.
Okay, where were we? Oh, she's frozen again. So, a new day, a new luck. We interrupted yesterday's session, and today everything seems to be fine. So, welcome back, Aurora.
Thank you.
And I guess yesterday we stopped at, I asked about what is the motivation of, keeping technology back, and who is doing that decision, who makes that decision. And you already talked a little bit about who it is.
Mm.
And but why is it? Why would anyone, stop progress? Or what is so wonderful about that?
Well, progress, progress. Well, we have to look at the reality for its what it can deliver in terms of its material progress, which is it has two sides to it. It has the desire to become physically rich, or to become more sustained in one's living, and then we also have to look at the shadow side of that aspect as well. What is it that needs to that people seem to wish to have? So I would call it just basic jealousy. That's a part of it, but there's more to it. What I've noticed is the shadow aspect relates very closely to the desire to wish to be in control of something that is good, or let's say appears to be good for. So the guy who's got, I'm going to give you an example. There's a guy who wishes to implement a new water system in some country somewhere in Africa, whatever, as an example, just an example. And they've already started to do that because they are near a river system, and they've got a very strong river system. So they've been creating it for themselves. And here comes Mr. Whoever, and he wishes to covet that process to exploit from them, as well as from what comes from the outside. So he would then say, okay, your taps are disgusting, I'll create new taps for you, and look, they're nice and shiny, as opposed to your plastic ones. I can see it here. So that's the intention, is to create. You have to look at it in a spectrum. First of all, the spectrum is showing you that there's a desire to be acknowledged, to be seen as a savior. So there's a savior aspect in the metaphysical reality. Then there's also the material greed aspect, which then obviously, I mean, if I can exploit them and make a buck from it, why not? Because I can do that. Why can you do that? Because there's an opportunity to do that. So you're looking at an opportunistic process as well. That is what I've seen and observed. It's very rife at the moment. It's then perpetuated obviously further on. I mean, Germany, for example, created the very its own car industry, had its own car industry before it became sold out, and suddenly Germany can't make cars. South Africa created its own metal industry, had its own metal industry, provided food for many countries outside, was known in the 80s as the breadbasket of the world, blah, blah, blah. And okay, now you are all decrepit and you must be poor. Let's destroy your cosmetic appearance. You must aesthetically look not so nice. You must look ugly and dusty and whatever. And you must appear to be poor because the sub-Sahara is now useful for something else. So you're looking at a lot of elements that are involved in that specific process and slowing down progress. You can never progress too fast. And if you do, they will make sure that you are chopped down, or because they said so, whoever they are, in members in particular. So yeah, that's what I've seen.
And okay, apart from the financial aspect, is there also a psychological aspect? I mean, I personally, I couldn't imagine to be happy if people are downtrodden, you know?
Yeah.
If I had invented something that would make everybody's life easier, better, and without, you know, destroying the environment, I would love to share it. Yeah.
Yes.
And
No,
whoever wants it and wants to participate. So yeah, you are welcome. So I can't really fathom what is psychologically behind this wish to keep people down.
Well, it really borders down on to that first interview that we had where we spoke about destiny swapping.
Okay.
You can look at it in some variant of that. That is what I'm observing and what I have been looking into myself. Like you, I feel the same. It'd be amazing to actually just do something good and people benefit from it with no problem, no qualms, nothing like that. But there's always going to be one person, one particular state of mind that seems to be mentally focused on coveting, requiring to be something that I see you doing better, so therefore I must have what you have. It's like I said, there's greed. That's the material aspect of it, but the spiritual side to it, I would say you could call it a sense of narcissistic particular disorder of some sort. And then of course, it has always been a particular syndrome that has existed within this reality, because it started with the first worshipping of things that are external, that are outside of the self. So the moment humanity started becoming aware of observing things on the outside or external perspective, the entire dynamic for the entire reality changed, because that's when things became, what I see is what I want. I like that man, he's married to that woman, I want that man, screw the woman. That's also in that, there's nothing that stops that person from going towards that, aside from absolute desirous predatory passions, whatever you want to call it. So it is part of the dichotomy of the human society because of an external aspect, something that is outside of the self. And when you see it, you have the idea or the belief that it is something that you either respect or you do not. There are people that are very much focused, and I'm trying to remember the name for them. No, not misanthropy, but there are people that actually do not like the feel or the appearance of things that are ordered, because they associate that with something that is beauty, that is related to a creator that has created something in beauty. and they dispel that. I'm just trying to remember what the word was. It's quite an interesting word.
It will come to you when you no longer think about it.
Of course. Yeah, true.
Yeah. So when you yesterday you already mentioned the launching of golden ages, but obviously you are not talking about a golden age in terms of, Satya Yuga, Kali Yuga, or yeah, what we also see in the book of Daniel with this statue, the head of gold, the chest of silver, and on and on. You say they launch it every 100 years, roughly.
I do. Yeah.
Aren't we heavily overdue?
We are actually already in it, but it's derivative. You can see it wanting to peak. I think when the announcement of the Great Reset came in, that's where they tried to announce it to begin. And yet you can see that maybe a majority of the populace of the world are basically saying, we're not interested in that. We're basically going in our direction and this and that. And that's basically overthrowing that consensus agreement of the thought field experiment that it is a new age that you're all going in. So they are very strongly right now focusing on trying to resurrect it, to create some idealistic idea of new technology. I mean, they've upgraded all the computers now to Windows 11, which is, it's basically just another level program of Windows 10, which is actually really Windows 7 with lots of layers stacked on top of it, and so on. But what I'm trying to say is the process in terms of what they are pushing forward is basically not hitting everyone as hard as it used to, which is actually quite remarkable to see. I mean, we can just see how many people are actually questioning things that whom they may not have questioned, or that may not have questioned. Yeah, that's basically this golden age process is a marker for them to bring in their ideals that they wish to bring in for the people, because that is how they work. You can see the degradation, as I said, it's sideways because they don't ever work chronologically. They work in an order that is, if you want to change the presence, just go into the past material and just go edit a date there, and it will change the outcome of every other material that follows thereafter. But yeah, that's basically it. It's based on a dual nature, to put it like that.
Yeah, with the questioning, I mean, it's not just one article. There are numerous articles that say, and they argue it very well, that, for instance, this idea of net zero will result in millions of deaths. And so, and, this so-called Great Reset that was introduced by the WEF, I don't see it as progress. Definitely not.
Definitely not. No, that is the antithesis of it. This is why I made that video. I call that video Golden Cage, because occult history and esoteric history denotes that they perpetuate a particular drive. The Lucis Trust does the same thing, where they perpetuate a particular drive towards a particular time in future, which people will be X, Y, and Z, and they'll float on carpets and whatever you want to call it. Aldous Huxley wrote a story around that future thinking. I just call it future faking, because that's just yet another symptom of narcissism, which they've just painted over with something else. A thought field belief system. This whole net zero thing is to create an energetic surge in people that are affected by it to make them become afraid, to get the energy. I mean, this is the whole story. Like I said, I mean, aside from calling it loosh, it is just what it is. There's an energetic feed from that. People who invest with their consciousness into what they are seeing on an external level, if they're being shown, okay, look, now you can see this, I'm going to take it away. How do you feel now? Oh, you feel very scared. Yes, yes. Okay. Now let me show you power. Now you see it. Now you don't. That's basically what they're doing all the time. If they get to a point where some, I'm not going to say anything, but some type of thing happens, an event happens or whatever, I don't want to call it up, then they can say, okay, now you see, you didn't know, you didn't believe us. Now you see climate change actually really does exist, you know, because meanwhile, back at the ranch, this is the season. No, but we won't tell the populace, type of thing. It's just part of control. It's control over the mind because of external beliefs.
Would you say that there is a war over timelines?
Interesting question. Yes, actually, I call them script keepers. They scripture a particular timeline that would benefit a particular ideology or a belief system to be put into place. For instance, a very good example is the story about what was it, the UFO crash land in New Mexico. Do you remember that old chestnut? That was already being put into a narrative at least almost 100 years prior to that, or maybe less than 100 years, where George Orwell had created a radio show, The War of the Worlds, and straight after that, that supposed thing happened. So that is part of creating a timeline. And then movies come out to perpetuate that specific timeline, that thread, or that idea, and they keep going with that thread. Then you get apocalyptic movies, and even before that. So media, mainstream media, is very important in creating a timeline for people to observe, because people observe. Yeah. So yes, there's definitely a war on that.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I can see how they do it. You know, a subject is being put out, a narrative is created. We saw it all in 2020, how that went down.
Yeah.
And in unison. So what I ask myself now is, what can we do to get us on a positive trajectory, on a different timeline?
Well,
would it be enough to put out a different narrative? Because timelines and narratives go hand in hand, at least in my perception.
Yes, they absolutely do. As long as there's a belief in the consensus of duality, for example, the adversary exists, so therefore an anti-adversarial element must exist to counter that. So there's a devil, then there must be an angel. So one must exist to counter the other one out. That's duality, and that is also unfortunately a mirror-based belief system that's been perpetuated for a long time. As long as there's a belief in that, the timelines will always play a big role in people who believe in that way. You asked, is there a way that things can change to become better? I'm saying, yes, it's already happening. We are talking about it right now. That's already a start in terms of inspiring people to want to focus on caring for themselves. Self-love, self-care, that is very strongly an emphasis that draws the attention from the outside back into the self. And once one is able to focus back into oneself, one is able to address morality, balance of sense of feeling, emotional responsibility, owning up to your wounds, your trauma that you've experienced. And when you're in that place, you then are becoming more empowered. I always say if you can't love yourself, that's okay. If you want to start to at least love yourself, then do something every day at least, or something in a week. If you're that despicably not liking yourself, one thing in a week or one thing a day where it is something that is based on self-growth, where if you go and, let me give you an example. You don't like to walk that specific route because there's whatever, or it's too far. Walk to your gate. Today you walk to your gate. That is one thing that you've done for yourself. Don't walk there because I told you so. Do it for yourself. And that is already a first step. That's very simple things to focus on. But if you try it, it's very, very hard. But I know people personally and people indirectly that have actually done this, and they've changed their lives radically in that way, because it then became a lifestyle. And in that lifestyle, they started to change the frequency around them, which is, you made a very good example. The guy with the water, what's his name? Yamamoto? Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
That is literally how you alter not even yourself, but that which is around you, because everything operates in water. Everything is essentially got cells in it. Yeah. That's it. That is how you do it.
Yeah. And since you live in Africa, and I guess I told you before, I have been monitoring events in Africa for quite a while now. And I have to say, there is always a huge backlash. For instance, what is going on in Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger now, the three countries that left ECOWAS, created AES. And yeah, I guess this month or last month, there was the 5th assassination attempt on Ibrahim Traore. And yeah, Mali also gave a lectured Ukraine in the UN. I saw what the representative said at the UN, and also there are suspicions that France is working with terrorist groups. They have huge insurgents still, where ISIS and Al-Qaeda affiliated groups are entering into their countries. Just recently in Burkina Faso slaughtered 200 people. And so that means, there is somebody who wants to create a new timeline for his country, more sovereignty, make ourselves food sufficient, that we can no longer have to import everything, creating jobs by creating factories. Also, that diminishes constantly importing. And yeah, I mean, with the Treasury Deposit Bank that they have launched, and now in the long term having their own currency, which France will no longer, the Central Bank of France will no longer have a say in it. Of course, and it is not that officially France is attacking them, but there is a case to be made that whoever has the will and the heart to say, no, now my people come first, and we have enough resources and we will use them as we see fit. They also stopped exporting their gold.
That's very good.
because the new currency, they want that to be gold backed.
That's
And
good.
yeah, but if that happens,
It
do you
will.
know what that means for the dollar, for the euro?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But then what follows after that will be following by example, because there are a lot of other people in different countries, including here, that I know of, that wishes to have that same sort of sovereignty. And
Yeah,
it's keep going. Put protection around him and keep going.
yeah,
That's what I would say.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I wish them all the best.
Well,
I wholeheartedly believe Africa deserves a seat at the table. And it cannot be that it is, just for other countries to grab the resources, make a buck of it, and the rest of Africa is, except for the bigger cities, of course, but you have so many areas where there is no electricity, no running water in the house, and what have you. And we have 2024, and I find that is unacceptable.
I agree. I agree. It's the same in South Africa as well. There are a lot of impoverished areas where there is still that going on. However, what I've noticed is in much like what's happened with that country that you spoke about, there are the same things happening here on a smaller scale. But
Mhm.
if you take a little match and you take like 10 matches that are lit, you get a bigger light. So, I mean, it really is that simple if you look at it, that people are actually, they've just gotten to that point where they have, we're done with this. We're fed up with it. I can feel in the energetic field that people are basically wanting to stop having that happen. But let's assume that the gold thing does come in, which I know will definitely happen. There are going to be other plans put in place that will not let anything collapse, because it's not in the nature of this world to ever collapse. Let me put it that way. Because had it been collapsed, there wouldn't be a civilization that's happening now. And we can see, if we look back in history, how many civilizations have existed and still do. So there was never really a collapse. There was just literally us flowing into the next civilization. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but some of those, let's say, transitions into new civilizations were pretty brutal. For instance, and
Yeah, they would.
I still call it collapse of the Bronze Age.
Mm.
Uh, and I mean, that had tremendous effects. We even lost the ability to read and write for 500 years.
At that time, yes.
Yeah.
However, don't forget that most of the reading and the writing at that time was done in holy centers.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it was completely gone. They just kept super quiet about it and didn't want to spread it around and reserved it only for spirituality. So this is why I've that is why I'm so avidly wanting to educate people in needing to understand that they can actually help themselves internally. They are able to have sovereign control over their spirit, which is then able to prevent such a collapse as what happened in Bronze Age. That's just me doing this on this side of the corner.
Yeah. Do you think that, during those times, let's say like the collapse of the Bronze Age, that and they keep the knowledge in certain circles, that also leads to so-called secret societies, because
Absolutely.
the events and the circumstances of the time require that certain knowledge has to go underground.
That would definitely be it. Yes, absolutely. However, when certain knowledge goes underground, you will always find someone that will say, do you really think we should share all of that to everybody? Blah, blah, blah. And then keep quiet and say nothing for the rest of the day. So that is a situation. This is why I keep saying, if you learn to understand who you are able to understand the morality of yourself. You will then decide what information do you share and how do you share it. You share it in whatever way, without feeling like you are going to, like, I'm just keeping it secret and it's just us two who know about this. That's not going to happen then. Someone asked me this question, how can you prevent this from happening? So I said, well, question your own morality, for starters. Find your balance inside of you, and you won't feel the need to wonder what's going to come on the outside to try and help you. You are the one that has to start the process where you are. So that's how it works in terms of information. They're trying it now. I heard somewhere that they are creating what is it called? Freedom of speech zones in universities in the States, right? When in actual fact, universities were known as place where you could speak your thoughts overall. Now they've got little zoned off areas. It was like Hyde Park. That's just how they try to create these little, they trying to grab onto certain things that they try to enforce into the system. Again, it's just another systemic programming of mental engineering, basically.
Mm. What I also find interesting when I watch videos about Africa and what is going on there, and I look into the comment section, people from all over the world are supporting Africa. It doesn't matter. Yeah, many people, be it Canada, New Zealand, whatever. Do you think that also this energy of, psychological and mental support is a little bit of a shield for those countries who are going now a different way? In other words, those who want to prevent the real sovereignty will have a harder time to accomplish their goal, because the time is ripe now and there is so much, mental, psychological support from around the world.
Am I understanding you correctly by asking, is what they're doing, getting away with it, that it's basically creating some sort of, that it's covering up what the other guys are doing?
No.
Or,
that we have, as I said, one assassination attempt after another.
oh, right.
But,
You're asking if it's protecting them?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Because on an energetic level, I don't see anybody really supporting the other side.
No. It's becoming very obvious, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even one he is a Sri Lankan professor. I forgot his name. I shared it on my Patreon site. He gave a lecture in Rotterdam how we keep Africa poor. And he even said all our economic models that we teach you in the university, at the university, he said most of it is garbage. And these models all depend on Africa being poor.
Yes, there's a guy who did a lecture on, and it leaked out all over the internet. I can't remember the guy's name, if he even had a name, that they kept referring to Africa as sub-Sahara continent, without even, so denouncing even the name of Africa, South Africa, Nigeria, Ethiopia, all the countries inside of the continent. They just by removing the name, the title, it is like a denouncing of that existence. So that is definitely part of a mental warfare of what they've been doing. But then South Africans, I've not been anywhere else in the African continent except in Egypt, is that they're very resilient, and everyone is always together when something happens. It doesn't matter who and in what way. This is right across the board, from any color, whatever you want to call it. Everyone is together in whatever it is that's been happening, and you can see it, you can feel it. This is the same as what that man has been trying to do. There is definitely something going on energetically. There is definitely a protection, absolutely. Just to reaffirm what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought so too. You know, it's not the comment itself, but it's the energy behind it.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And, so I can see that there is, you know, in the perception of people, it's no longer this Africa, it's not interesting. Whatever happens there, what do we care? No, that has changed.
It has, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about gold, and you made a very interesting analysis of the Golden Dawn.
Yes.
Yeah. And what I especially found interesting is that, you know, when you explain the repackaging of old spiritual ideas repackaged and sold as new.
Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, absolutely. The Golden Dawn, granted its history and how long it's been existing in time, if anyone does any research, you can just do a Google search and you'll know how long ago and how long the Golden Dawn has been going on in its many versions of societies that it's broken itself up to, specifically because of the Kabbalah system that's inside of it. Now, the Golden Dawn essentially focuses very heavily on the restructuring of the upliftment, but then also at the same time the controlled downfall. That's what I saw. That's what I discovered, and that's why I spoke about that, because you can see it in the way that the Kabbalah system is created as well for that particular purpose. It's as if it is one giant door in which person can go in and get lost and never really come out. So that in itself principally originates then from even further back, where you can draw in the Rosicrucians as well, where they've taken information from there. Waite, what's his name? Arthur Waite, Rider Waite, yeah, Arthur Waite, tarot guy. That he was a student in the Rosicrucian. I mean, and you go even further back, the guys went to Egypt and they discovered more information. So they took all the stuff back with them and they literally repackaged it. They may have used information from Blavatsky's time as well. Who knows? The fact is, there's a pattern that is very relevantly present. You can see it. It's a focus on duality, like I was mentioning earlier. Duality in itself has to create, if there's a hell, there must be a heaven. If there's a devil, there must be an angel. If there's a yes, there must be a no, a black, white, red, blue, etc. Polarity has to be there. And so in the same nature, because of the external focus on the rituals in the Golden Dawn itself, there has been a lot more other smaller societies that have obviously followed from there. But their initial thing is to focus on the person, have the person be completely subjected to all of the rules that have been put in place, almost like a university, a school, type of thing, because that's how it started, as a school.
Mm.
And people naturally want to be educated because they wish to be in a particular order. And normally at that time, they have extended invitations out to people who had a lot of financial backing at the time. Yet they had said that they'd opened it up, the doors, for philosophers and people who were spiritual, etc., etc., etc. But the influences are very heavily still functioning now. I mean, they're just doing the same thing over and over by repackaging the same information in a dualistic manner. They keep presenting, like I was showing you, displaying to you just now. Now you see it, now you don't. Do you like this? Do you not like this? If you don't like this, then this is going to happen. It's the same thing. Yeah, I think I can talk for ages on them, but
And in world events, you know, what I clearly see, you know, is this push for pick a side, you know, with
yeah,
Ukraine and Russia, with
yeah,
Israel and
always.
Gaza.
Yeah.
And even to a certain extent, we had it with COVID. And I have to say, I know what I'm doing, yeah, but I'm not going to pick a side here.
No, you do not pick a side, and when you do not pick a side, they get upset.
Yeah.
Then they create something behind you, because that's how they tactically do what they do. They have a group, let's call them a consensus group or a group of study, and they will investigate a particular group of people or a person or whatever, place or thing, and okay, pick this side, pick that side. Person doesn't want to pick any side, so they go from behind, and they'll draw things on a psychological, spiritual level to then try and break down certain weaknesses that they may think they perceive you may have, which then becomes stalking, cyber stalking, or stalking. So it's the same stuff. There is no originality in their behavior at all. There is nothing. There's only taking information from somewhere and throwing it into something new, repackaging it. I have to tell you, I cannot tell you how many times I've seen the tarot played out in any media, movie, whatever you want to call it, in a particular way. You cannot not see it. If you know the cards really well, you can see it. They even speak it. There's no change. There's no altered behavior. There's nothing new in their behavior. This is why I'm thinking, you know, I think by now people should start becoming aware of this. You know, it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. And what you also mentioned in your video was the absolute dependence on outside, you know, spirits, on angels and what have you. And it's, to me, it seems, I know these people love it, but to me, it seems as long as, you know, you always have to have this entity, whatever it might be, in the outside world, they keep you crippled in a way, because you will never come to being a well-rounded person.
Exactly. As long as there is a dependency or on something external, their material that they've created always gives leniency to something outside of the person, the student or the novice that they're bringing, that they are teaching, where that person has to learn about, stand in this way and look to the north and you will see that angel come there and this and that and so on. The external codependency enforces the belief that you are nothing without something that is perceived as more mightier or powerful than you are. Because I think there's a psychological part in human nature that seeks to feel comforted by something that is bigger, so that there is perhaps a side that I don't need to do anything more because I know this will happen for me, or I'm protected by what's it, Archangel Michael. As an example, because that guy's name is like, hey, that's like, if anyone could have hits on that. Anyway, that's just an example. Yeah, as long as there's a codependency on something external, that's it. Because human nature, the spirit uses the soul to observe through and externally, and then gather data to feed back into the spirit. If you are polluting the environment, then that soul will draw in that information. If they don't have a mental capacity to understand anything different, they will pollute themselves. And that is a belief system in itself, actually. If you live in a household where, let's say the family's they're all serial killers, and you're the youngest child now, do you want to be one? Yes, because mom and dad were. No, you don't have to. You don't have to. You can choose. You can choose to be a postman. You don't have to be a serial killer. Choice, free will. Those things seem to be missing in some ways. Sometimes, not all the time. But yeah, that's the external thing.
Yeah. And also what I cannot speak to all religions, but definitely there is a strong stance. Yeah, well, couple of thousands of years ago, there was a couple, they ate the wrong fruit, and because of that, you are doomed, basically.
Yeah.
And no matter what you do, you are a bad being, and
Yes,
you need a redeemer.
that's right. And the Redeemer is in that church or that temple, and you can't go anywhere unless you pay him a tenth of your salary as well, just to add bonus to it.
Yeah. And to me, that is, blocking the potential of a human being right from the get-go.
That is exactly the plan, and that is and has always been the plan all the time, all along, to reduce the ability for humanity to be able to look into themselves and actually stand up and be true to who they are. And I'm not saying humans are subjected. I don't see that as much as I used to see. What I'm saying is, you need to start questioning everything that is outside of you. Question even the God that you believe in. What has it done for you? Has it been there to cause you a misery? Has it done this for you? Has it been in any form supportive of you? Have the people that are in that particular order supportive to you, or are you just worth something? Have you got any value if you keep donating, if you keep giving to it? It's a lot of those things. I mean, it's not just in churches and religions, but I'm thinking it's also in every other social circle. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you say that was the plan, right, all along, to keep us from developing in a good way and to reach our full potential.
Let me say that was the opportunity for it to have happened, and it became a very well honed plan over time. I think that was the
who made that plan?
Well, the plan is to prevent you from approaching your absolute wholeness, because then I can't con you with any illusions anymore. You're going to catch me when I do this or that to you. That's that simple. The stronger you become, the more I'm going to try and see if I can bring you down. I'm just using an example. And if you don't stand, if you show a little bit of something, a little bit of weakness, or a little bit of self-love, that to me is weakness, because I can't stand anything and everything about you, because you want to live in an ordered life and I thrive on chaos. And therefore, everything, that's what I said to you, it's that word that I can't remember, that name for people that believe that anything and everything that is based on order and beauty and kindness and love, they hate all of that. It sounds like misanthropy, but it's not the word, and I cannot remember the word. Totally against order within, calmness, love, kindness, care for animals, etc., in totality against that. And that is part of that. If you, so to come back with what you were saying, essentially the whole process, where it started, was when there was an external attention made to something outside of the consciousness. Because as far as I'm aware, and what I can track into energetically, is all people at the time prior to whatever this age was, have focused on these spiritual developments from within. Excuse me. And the more they were focusing from what was within, they had a deeper understanding of nature outside of them. So the focus was always inward first, before it changed, before they started to be made aware of looking outside of themselves. That is, as far as I'm concerned, if you can look there, you can be conned, because you will look at an illusion, because this world is not what it appears to be. It is everything and more. It is illusionary and also reality. It's all together. It's all mixed together. You are the only person that are able to make sense of where you are and in what proximity you are with what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, and I would agree with the statement that politics, for instance, is the highest form of magic. You know, when you look at certain events, let's say something is catching the attention of the entire country for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times what you will see, they launch a nonsensical story, but that's captured, and some of it might even be completely made up. We had it here at the beginning of the year, but all of a sudden everybody is looking there.
Exactly. Smoke and mirrors. Exactly. And that is just on a much more broader scale, which is exactly the same as inside of some sort of ritual where you're being told, okay, you need to look at the lesser keys of Solomon and just read there about so-and-so spirit or demon, if you want to have that spirit come to you to help you to find a parking spot tomorrow in your shopping. External gratification. It is and has always been that, sadly. Yeah.
So in other words, because the narcissist, the psychopath, the sociopath, they can't be happy with well-rounded human beings. And that is why they try to clip your wings right from the get-go.
Because it reflects to them their weakness, their missing, whatever is missing. It reflects back to them that they essentially don't have arms or legs, even. Everything that is in appearance to them, as, like I was saying, I think in the first one, where I was saying that the only way that they are able to, what inspires them to track you or to stalk you is if they perceive that you are something mystical or something good, or I'm running out of examples here, And to them, that is as if you then represent the sound of music. They hate the song, the sound of music. So they will, because they're so blinded. It's very similar to the demiurge in the Sophia Gnostic movement, where the Yaldabaoth is a blind and jealous god type of archetype. And that frequency very much is present in people's behavior, who then see this person as somebody good and they want to go and clip their wings because, gosh, your wings are too pretty. Your wings are too pretty. Your face is too nice. You're too much of a nice person. What's the catch? Boom, boom. I'm cutting your wings. I'm trying to cut your wings, rather. Let me put it that way. It threatens them on an internal level. They're forced to look at what is missing inside of them. It's also a type of psychological stalking that kind of backfires all the time. It's like H.P. Lovecraft, who's afraid of his own things that he created in his books. Stephen King is just as scared of his own creations. It's the same thing. It's weird. It's a strange thing in people like that.
Mm. Oh, do you have that sometimes that the thought just slips
Yeah,
away?
flew out. Yes, I know, like that bird. I can't get that bird.
Oh yeah. So Kabbalah.
Right.
What do you think that is? What is this actually about? Because you know that this tree of knowledge, for instance, usually the representation misses even one important aspect, the da'at. Yeah. So meaning when you go around from here, here, you could go straight in the middle, but because that is missing, you can't. You have to jump around. So to me,
Makes
it's
and letters.
yeah. To me, it's not a tree of life. It's the death tree.
It is. It's like the Death Star in Star Wars, where essentially it creates a structure for people to go into because they believe that essentially certain types of people on a psychological level need some extra teaching or studying or encouragement in terms of finding themselves. And you can find it everywhere online, where people write and wax lyrically about how they are on this journey where they are going to try and find themselves. The more they seek themselves, the further away they go from themselves, because the more they focus on the outside of this mystical journey, you're basically messing yourself up. You're fragmenting yourself. So to have called it a tree of life was created for the purpose of what those who practice it in, and I know Zionist magic, and that's where it comes from originally, or Babylonian mysticism, where it was interpreted as something that will be a roadmap for people to learn to become ideal people. Because within this tree there is a striving, there's a particular word, and I can't remember the name of it, that is equated to gold, which relates to eternity, eternal life. You're only worth something when you discover your own gold. Then there was another guy that was an alchemist who focused on that, and he basically came up with different conclusions. Gold is not the last thing, but to the people that created that particular thought field program or belief system, I actually think that it was created to cover up the fact that they wished to acquire maybe gold from certain people. I'm just interrupting my own thoughts there now, but yeah, definitely it is a death trap. It is also, if you look at the deep stuff beyond Thunderdome, I was able to correlate that the Kabbalah in itself stretched out, if you place it on the electromagnetic field or the torus field, fits over it. It's like it fits there on purposely for a particular reason. So I definitely think when you say that one part, that the art, that isn't that the part that brings you to your center? Isn't that what it's called? That's what it means? The art? It is, eh? Because I can't remember the names for it. That part is never to be attained ever. It's like forever looking for the unicorn horn.
Yeah, and that is probably why they take it out.
Exactly. If it was put in place enough, looked for older material to show that, you'd still have the same problem in some rudimentary way, because you'd still be, you may come closer to yourself eventually, but that journey might take a little bit long, okay, so let me put it this way. The information that I'm presenting in my stuff called the philosophy, which is based on finding the internal self and connecting, etc., is a much shorter journey to take. If the art was in the center of that tree, it would be perhaps maybe a little longer journey, but you'll eventually get there. You will eventually get there. If you keep discipline within yourself. It's a very disciplined aspect of that was in there, like heavily disciplined. And I've looked at older material where that was actually discussed. Eliphas Levi spoke about it. Yeah.
Yeah. What is this obsession with, some people in the secret societies of becoming a god? Or what is that about? I mean,
Well, that's a good question.
well, yeah, I don't expect you to have the answer of all answers, but my goodness, what is wrong there?
Well, what's wrong there is it goes beyond the egoic aspect. It goes beyond that. What's wrong there is this whole duality belief system. Like I said, they started this whole fad doing this whole chosen one thing. Chosen one. You must be a chosen one, or this or that, or a royal or something, and that perpetuates the idea or the belief that you will become some sort of godlike person. That also keys into plurality, which is pantheon, a pantheon of gods. That means a lot of gods to represent whatever, a god of the tree and a god of the cup and a god of the water and a god of God. And to have all of those things at your disposal for the shopping trip tomorrow to get the parking ticket wiped away for you. So you don't get the parking ticket, you just get a parking spot. So if you are if you are believing that you are some sort of chosen one, you will believe yourself to become a god-like being. And when you are in that godlike state, that means you are then able to control the world in a particular way. But actually, in reality, that really is just a belief system that keys into the duality of which the Golden Dawn and the Kabbalah keep perpetuating. That essentially duality is, like I've said, it is a flawed belief system because it enforces a mirror back into itself, which really, if you look at it between the lines, is narcissism, if you call it like that. Someone who can't stop looking at themselves in the mirror. So yeah, I mean, I just skipped a few steps now, but as long as there's a chosen one belief system, as long as there's a belief in an adversary or something that is there on the outside, there will be someone who will want to be some king or prince or god. It is just nature. human nature if they're so fractured in that duality state.
But most religions are selling the idea of of chosen ones. You know, if you believe to us, you've got it. Don't go over there. They have no idea what they are talking about.
Exactly. In fact, the whole idea about the premise of martyrdom is the same thing. It is really an inversion of the one that had to be sacrificed for whatever purpose would be for someone else, to continuously place a person or a scapegoat person who is a scapegoat is also a chosen one, or the virgin is the chosen one for that sacrifice type of thing. It is always for the external gratification. It is always for more rain, or the golden pots at the end of the rainbow or something, or to own that company. Oh, it just is so externally focused. When I say external, I'm saying that's such a cute cat. The belief in being given something from the outside. We spoke about it in the first one, where it's basically a flawed system because nothing is fixed in this material realm. There isn't anything that can, it's nothing, there's no fate. There's not a fated thing or a fixed thing, because material world and the prima materia is always moving. The world is always moving. So you can't anchor into that thing, because you're going to lose it. So you need to focus on inside of you. Just, cut the BS and get to the point, with yourself, type of thing.
Yeah. But that, of course, there are people who will defend their religious beliefs even to the point, of killing others.
They will, because some of them do not believe themselves worthy of being better, or not better, that sounds subjective, but being better for themselves, being in a much less distressed state. Some people are actually addicted to adrenaline, so they like to live in that thrill, stress state constantly. They like to live in that state of distress. And other people are afraid of actually looking into themselves and really looking really deeply in themselves and being honest. And like I said from the beginning, to address their wounds, address the trauma, address the belief systems that were put there for you to fall under and become subjected to.
Probably I cannot, put myself into the mindset of those people who want to control everything and everybody. I find it not only futile, I find that extremely stressful, so much effort, and for what? For what?
I personally find it extremely boring.
Yeah.
Their behavior is extremely dull to me. It is just, really? You're going to do this again and again and again? Really? It's like a repeat button. It doesn't do anything for me. I find it curious, but I've gone beyond the curiosity now. I just know that that's just what they are. Some people are like that and other people are not, sort of thing.
Yeah. If somebody wants to have their religion and they love it, and so be it. I'm not going to stand in your way. I'm offering a different perspective, and if you don't like it, then just leave it alone.
Exactly.
It would never occur to me, to go to war with somebody because he doesn't believe what I believe or whatever.
The religious warfare, it's never really about religion, from what I'm aware of. you can just look back and take note that it really is always about minerals or whatever is available on the land itself. What do you call it? Templars.
Yeah.
It was about what was left behind. Seriously, crows and magpies.
Yeah, I mean, they pillaged entire areas.
Yeah.
Wow.
Farmers that actually left certain documents in their charge because they believed the guy said, it's okay, I'll look after your land when you go and do your duty to the queen or the king. And the guy dies, and okay, that's fine. I'll just take that. The war in the north, it's all about the oil. That's it. That's really all it's about. Oil. It's not about anything else. They like to blanket it under certain aspects like religions and prejudices and all of that. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but it is only about the mineral that's present there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, okay. So I'm so happy that we got through this without
Me too.
interference.
Less stressful.
Yeah, that was really an experience and a half yesterday. So I will now go and stitch the various items together. I thank you so much for coming, Aurora. And yeah, let's talk soon. It's always a pleasure. I like talking to you, and I also benefit a lot. And so, yeah, let's do that. So, guys, that was it. Night Flight for today. And we will see you all next time. Until then,
Yeah.
stay safe and sound.